Hey everyone, welcome back to the course. This is lecture 4, Simple is Beautiful, the first lecture of section 2, where we're really going to dive into the philosophy of price action. So in this lecture, we're going to go through 3 areas, 3 reasons, and we talked about one of them with the cockroach metaphor, which was robustness, but there's a few others like operational efficiency, ease of measurement and evaluation, and you'll see why simplicity helps us in those 3 areas. So from an operational efficiency perspective, why do we care? Well, we want our technical method to save us time and energy. Okay, we don't want to we want something that can go out there and look at all the data and look at all the potential trade candidates and distill it down for us in a very simple and effective way. That's why we primarily want to use price action. Okay, we don't want it to be a huge burden that adds many more hours onto the already hard treasure hunt for the stuff that's going to move. So operational efficiency is impossible if there's too many indicators on a chart. You just can't do it. So if you have a chart that's looking like this, where you have, I don't even know what the hell all this stuff is, CRSI, divergence indicator, I just put a bunch of the indicators that were available in our chart package on here. I really can't believe that some people actually use this stuff. Like this circle here, what the hell is this? But people do, I guess. That's why they have them on the platform. But this is not operational efficiency, all right? There's no way that you can take this and easily find out what's going to happen to this particular asset. It's just way too complicated, and there's just absolutely no way to easily look at this chart and say, hey, this is what soybean oil is expected to do. Now, on the other hand, here's charts more congruent with what we like to use. So you can see it's very simple bars, a few MAs. We got, head and shoulders pattern outlined here, which is a congestion pattern, but it's very simple. Here's Chesapeake, same thing. It's bars, a few MAs. We got a congestion pattern outlined, and it keeps the process simple. It keeps the chart simple so we can actually tell what's going on. And another one, British pounds, same thing, just a few MAs. Sometimes you get even more simpler than this. You can only have one MA, and you're just looking at price action, right? Very simple, no indicator soup going on. We can identify congestion areas, we can identify moments of trend, and that's, we got what we need out of this chart. So the reason why people fall into this trap of more is better is in other areas of life outside of the markets, we usually equate more studying or more practice or more to better, but that's not the case in the markets. So when you're growing up and you're studying for midterms or final exams, and you knew that if you put in 40 hours of study instead of 20, you would probably get a better grade. You're going to get that A. Same thing with learning an instrument or practicing a sport. Let's say you're learning guitar and you put in for 3 hours a day. You're going to get pretty damn good at guitar practicing 3 hours every single day versus if you only practiced for 15 minutes. But in the market, adding more and more doesn't necessarily mean better. Okay, so the market is a dynamic game. And what I mean by that is the target's constantly moving. So the market changes. It's a reflexive system. So it changes as time goes on, meaning its characteristics subtly change. And on top of that, we have a lot of incomplete information. So all we really know is, what the chart says, the best we can do with the fundamental situation, but there's a lot of surprises that could come and other noise that surrounds that. So, trying to put more and more elbow grease into a particular method is more or less a fool's errand. It's not going to help us create better predictions. There's a point where the marginal benefit of additional indicators completely drops off. And because the market is this machine, this reflexive machine that's constantly a moving target, TA's purpose is not to create winning trades 100% of the time. All right. We are not in this game to create winning trades 100% of the time. All right. Instead, technical analysis and price action needs to be thought of as a way of efficiently organizing and defining the trades you want to take. Taking a large amount of data, efficiently distilling it down and into a type of actionable trading idea. And we call this chart chunking, this concept of efficiently distilling the information down. Now, chunking comes from our buddy Josh Waitzkin, who wrote The Art of Learning. And basically, what chunking means is taking data and distilling it down into a framework that can then be stored in the subconscious mind. And so as you start off as a beginner and slowly become a master, you observe large amounts of data and patterns and observations, and you end up creating neural pathways between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So then what happens after you observe enough of these, you can instantly identify them through the subconscious mind and immediately act upon it. So you're chunking the information down. You no longer see, each little move or each little price fluctuation as something that you need to analyze. You just see, congestion areas, big, large things. Okay. And this is common in any type of endeavor. This chunking thing, it's not just trading. So you can think of it as any beginning player walking to a game like chess or poker, right? They're going to have a hard time, really thinking about higher level strategy, but the master can go in and instantly know what's going on. And PLB, Peter Brandt, we talked about him earlier, he's a master chartist, and he only takes 2 seconds to look at every chart. So in 2 seconds, he can tell you whether or not he thinks a chart's actionable enough to trade on. So just to kind of dive into this deeper, because I think this concept's so critical, we're going to look at just the chess example. So if you think about a rookie coming into the game, he has to process, hey, can I move this pawn 2 spots? Can I move this pawn here? He has to think about those basic things. He doesn't completely understand what every single piece does. Can this piece jump over to this square? No, it can't. But your knight can. He's thinking about these things in his mind. The masters are chunked down these concepts, and so he's thinking about entire higher level strategy, like entire opening plays. That he's going to move this pawn here, then this one here, then take the knight out here, and then send his bishop out and make an attack down this side of the board. He has that higher level at the front of his mind because this other stuff is chunked back into something that he can instantly, with a snap of a finger, just recall and know. Another example, poker. The beginner's, expanding energy, analyzing to a flush beats a straight, and the master has that kind of stuff already internalized, and instead he's looking at the board, he's looking at the players, he's calculating pot odds, he's looking at player profiles. Is this person aggressive or conservative? He's looking at how, what is my hand equity? What is my bluff potential for this particular hand? And that's what we want to get to when it comes to charting. So chunking in markets would be, once this technical analysis method is internalized, the markets are no longer going to appear random and threatening. So complex price patterns on the chart are going to be chunked down almost instantaneously, and you'll be able to instantly flip through dozens and dozens of charts to figure out, hey, this is good, this is not good, this is good, this is not good. And that's where we get that operational efficiency upgrade. And it becomes way easier to distinguish between noise and signal, and price patterns become second nature. So, let's look into an example here. We got the NASDAQ. So if you look at the NASDAQ futures, a beginner's just going to see a bunch of moving lines. This looks pretty random to a beginner. They're going to wonder, what are these spindles doing? These kind of look weird. Like, what's going on here? Why did it drop so much? Why are these tiny spindles? Then we have huge bars. The beginner sees the chart in that light. But once you're able to master a technique and chunk it down, you're going to have a completely different way of analyzing it. So let me break out the line tool here and show you guys what I see on this chart. And this is from tons of iteration and having a very simple and effective framework I can use to define a chart. So instead of a bunch of random fluctuations, I'm looking for higher level patterns, like for instance, congestion zone. So we see congestion zone here, then I see a trend, then I see another congestion zone, I see a trend, I see a higher low, another congestion zone. So these are the kind of things that a master is looking at in the chart. I'm not saying by any means that I'm an absolute master at price charts, but I have this information assimilated down into my subconscious. I instantly see these types of things when I look at this chart. That's the point that we want to get to with our technical method. So trying to efficiently chunk price information with a ton of indicators doesn't work. It's way too hard to do, and it becomes an absolute hindrance instead of an effective and efficient operational efficiency upgrade. So if we have a chart like this, back again to the curly Qs and the every damn line oscillating up and down, it's extremely hard to look at this and make a quick, easy conclusion. You have to study it for a while, and this is not what we want in a price action method. We're not looking at trying to find the very perfect thing, the very perfect analytical technique that will enable us to have a 100% win rate. We want something that's quick and easy, and we can use it as a tool to quickly surf through trades that can and let us know, hey, does this have potential or not? And this complexity ties into the next concept of robustness, which we talked about with the cockroach. So if you have a robust analytical technique and a robust, simple framework, you're going to last for the long haul. We want to learn a method that's going to last for the long haul. We don't want to learn some crazy curly Q technical indicator system that's going to break down as soon as a bull market, ends or something. So the analogy here that I put the M16 on here is because, markets are like battle, and the M16 has been used for so long because the rifle is incredibly robust to the stress and volatility of battle. And that's why it's still used today in operation. We can take that similar mindset back into markets where we want to have a process that in the stress of markets, when in a crisis and when there's a ton of volatility, it still holds up. It doesn't immediately break down. We don't want all the fancy little things in the chart that completely break down when a regime changes. And if you're the person that likes to make stuff more complex than what it needs to be, you have risk of falling on what we call the cycle of death. So the cycle of death, of technical death, is usually in this fashion. So we see a technical method not working out as good as someone would like it to work out, or maybe it's completely failing them. So, they try to beef it up, right? They move down the cycle to this part. They try to add the curly Qs and add the fibs and add the GAD lines to create the perfect signal. And maybe it does work for a bit, and it starts to work well for a short amount of time. But then as soon as the market cycle regime changes, it completely blows up again, and now they're back at square one. And they keep on going on this cycle over and over again because they just didn't start with something that was simple enough to last through all market cycles. This is not what we want to be in. All right, so a trader first coming in and reading about technical analysis and experimenting with various methods usually falls into this trap because they keep adding and adding and adding and adding to try to up win rate and profitability. And it never works for the long haul, and they get frustrated and more frustrated, and they eventually end up leaving price action technical analysis on the curb altogether because they got so frustrated from this cycle of death. When in reality, you can have a very effective system with simple rules. So take the best price action traders of all time, trend followers who only use price action, no fundamentals, only use price action in their inputs. They've made hundreds of millions in the market using very, very simple rules. All right, and these simple rules are like buy 50-day highs, sell 50-day lows. So if the asset's at a 50-day high, they buy, and if the asset's at a 50-day low, they sell. Those were entry rules for some of the very early trend following systems. Not these exact parameters, but very similar to the stuff that Ed Sakota and the guys at Commodities Corp are trading. Another one, 50-day MA over 200 MA buy, 50-day MA below 200-day MA sell. So this the classic moving crossover rule has been used as a rule to develop very robust trend following systems. So successful price systems don't have to have all these parameters. They can literally be written down on a napkin, and the simplicity of them allows them to survive through all the volatility and stress of changing market cycles. And so the final part about why simplicity is so key is because it's something that can be measured and easily improved upon. And this is one of our favorite quotes from Peter Drucker, who was a management specialist. And he always talked about, you have to measure what you're doing so you can improve upon it. And we absolutely agree with this spirit when it comes to trading. So you're going to have a very hard time keeping with the Drucker spirit if your system or price action method is extremely complex. You won't be able to tell what's going wrong if it's not turning out how you like it because you don't know if it's the GAN lines, if it's the fib waves, if it's the moving average, if it's the trend lines. You just don't know. Whereas if you have a simple system, maybe you have 3 different rules or 3 different techniques of entering, you can go and view the results of each technique and better isolate what's not going to work going forward. If you have too many things that you have to analyze, it's almost impossible to find out, hey, should I discard the GAN lines or the fib waves or what? With a simple process, you can go on and say, you know what, this particular MA thing is not working. I'm going to stick with these few parameters and see what happens. And iterating like this is key to the market because, as we know, the market is a moving target. It's a reflexive system. So we do need to be able to tweak on the way and adapt our process. And if it's more simple, it can mold more easily to the fluctuations of the moving target of the market.